Have you ever closed your laptop late in the afternoon and realized that after an entire day of calls every 45 minutes, hallway conversations that began as quick check-ins and turned into small talk, and a meeting that landed exactly 1 hour after lunch, you still did not move the single project that actually matters to you even 1 inch forward, and you wonder how you can feel this tired and yet this empty at the same time? I have lived that day more times than I would like to admit, and what finally changed it for me was understanding something simple but not easy, which Cal Newport calls deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task so completely that the work you produce is rare, valuable, and unmistakably yours. And if you have ever tried to focus, only to have your phone glow with a notification that seems small and urgent, then another message, then a harmless glance at a trending post, you already know how shallow work multiplies, because you return to the task and your mind feels colder, like a car engine that stalled at the light, and it takes long minutes to warm back up. Researchers who study deliberate practice point to something practical and hopeful here, that when you hold attention on a difficult problem, you are literally reinforcing the insulation around neural pathways, myelin that makes future signals travel faster, and that is why deep focus feels easier and richer the more you train it, while constant interruptions erode that pathway and leave you with the strange sensation of having worked all day and made nothing that compels you or anyone else. When Newport describes the landscape of the modern economy, he names 3 groups who tend to capture outsized rewards: high-skilled workers who can learn complex systems quickly, superstars who produce at an elite level, and capital owners who invest in people and ideas. For most of us, the first 2 are the accessible paths, and both depend on developing deep work, because if you can learn hard things fast and ship excellent work consistently, you become that rare person who creates more value than the hours on the clock would predict. I learned this the unglamorous way, through failure, when I was leading a small team at a startup in Austin, and our calendar looked like a patchwork quilt of stand-ups, status syncs, and reactive check-ins. We were exhausted, but the product still lagged, so we tried something that felt bold at the time and obvious now. We protected 1 block of deep work per person per day, and we chose a rhythm that made sense for each role. Engineers chose a morning slot from 6:30 to 8:30 in the morning before the world woke up. Design chose a late morning slot from 10 to 12 noon when feedback windows were quiet. My slot was mid-afternoon from 2 to 3:30, and we codified 1 simple rule. During a deep block, there would be no pings, no knocks, and no ad hoc asks unless there was a true incident. Within 2 weeks, our throughput rose in a way that surprised even the skeptics. But the more interesting change was emotional. People ended days with a small, proud smile because something difficult had moved from fuzzy to finished, and that quiet pride is addictive in the best way. To build that outcome on purpose, it helps to understand the difference between shallow and deep work inside your own day. Shallow work looks like movement, but it rarely compounds into mastery. It includes routine responses, dashboards that you skim without insight, meetings that could have been a page of notes and a decision, and the reason shallow work is seductive is that it offers instant closure. You can archive a thread or check a box and get a small hit of relief, but there is no stack of value building in the background. Deep work feels different in the body. You notice a widening sense of attention, like your view zooms out far enough to hold the whole problem space and zooms in at the same time to find the critical lever. Time passes differently, and your output carries the fingerprints of original thought. The good news is that deep work is trainable, and Newport offers 4 philosophies, each of which you can translate into daily life in the United States without moving to a cabin in the woods. The monastic approach is the cleanest. You eliminate or dramatically reduce sources of distraction for a season. Think of a novelist who checks messages only twice a week, or a researcher who keeps a separate device for communication and stores it in a desk drawer. You do not need to be extreme to benefit. You just need a strong boundary. Like uninstalling social apps from your primary phone and checking them only on a spare device during your lunch window and at the end of the day. I once tried this for 1 month and was shocked by how quickly my baseline attention returned. The bimodal approach splits your time into clearly defined deep intervals and open intervals. For example, Tuesday and Thursday from 8 in the morning to 12 noon are for deep work, while Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are for collaboration and meetings. Professors and product leaders tend to love this because it honors both creation and coordination. And when I used it, I added a friendly note in my calendar invites that read, focus block on Tuesday and Thursday morning. For urgent needs, please use our incident channel. And it turned out very few things were urgent once we defined what urgent meant. The rhythmic approach is the easiest for families and teams because it lives inside a daily routine. For example, you write from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning. You explore designs from 2 to 3:30 in the afternoon with headphones on. You code from 9 to 11 at night 3 evenings per week. Because the slot repeats, you do not argue with yourself about whether to do it. You simply show up. And that reliability builds momentum that your future self can trust. The journalistic approach is a lifesaver for chaotic schedules. You learn to drop into depth on demand, like a reporter who begins drafting between interviews. This approach is the one that helped me as a new parent when mornings were unpredictable. I kept a one-line list called the depth queue. Entries looked like map top 3 onboarding friction points, draft the flow section with 2 everyday examples, outline the customer interview plan. When a 45-minute pocket appeared, I picked one line, wrote the focus question at the top of a page, full screen the work, and entered quickly without needing a long warm-up. Philosophy answers why and when, ritual answers how. The first ritual is environment. Choose a place that signals deep work to your brain. A corner of your kitchen table with a single lamp, a quiet carol at your local library, a familiar cafe with noise-canceling headphones. Keep the visual field clean, a laptop stand, an external keyboard if you like, one notebook. Clutter increases micro-decisions and steals attention before you begin. The second ritual is a start signal that helps your body enter a focused state. Brew tea, put on one instrumental playlist and stick with it for months. Or take 3 slow breaths while you glance at your one-sentence target. Athletes have pre-game routines for a reason, and your brain benefits from the same consistency. The third ritual is the time container. Pick a clear start and finish. Many people thrive with a 90-minute block, while some prefer a 45-minute sprint with a short pause. The key is the promise you keep with yourself, which is why using a soft alarm or a kitchen timer you place across the room is more useful than silently hoping you will not wander. The fourth ritual removes friction. Close all windows you do not need. Full screen the tool you are using. Turn on Do Not Disturb. Physically move your phone to a different room if you can. If a thought pops up like pay the bill or email Sam, write it on a capture sheet and return to the task. You are not telling your life no, you are telling it not now. The final ritual is a loop closer. Save your work. Write 2 lines that say what you did and what comes next, and then schedule the next deep block. Those 2 lines preserve context so that tomorrow you do not waste your first 20 minutes rediscovering where you were. Because we are human, real life will push back, and it helps to practice with the actual constraints you face rather than waiting for the perfect week that never comes. If you have too many meetings, shorten them and narrow their purpose. Cut a 60-minute meeting to 25 minutes with a clear decision and a link to a 1-page pre-read. Move status updates to a document that people annotate in advance, and keep the live time for decisions only. If coworkers expect instant replies, set explicit response windows in your email footer or chat status. Something like focus work from 9 to 11 and from 2 to 3. I will reply after those windows. For true emergencies, please call my number. People adjust faster than you think because they want uninterrupted time too. If your energy crashes after lunch, place your deepest block in your best energy window. For many, that is the first 2 hours after waking. And reserve the early afternoon for lighter tasks or a shorter deep sprint. A 10-minute walk outside resets surprising amounts of fog. If you get bored, good boredom tolerance is now a competitive advantage. Practice leaving your phone in your bag while you wait in line. Take a short walk without a podcast. Drive 10 minutes in silence. You are not depriving yourself. You are conditioning attention to hold a hard thought without reaching for novelty. If you drift, label it gently, say mind wandering. Take one slow breath, then ask yourself your one-sentence target. Those 3 steps break the spell. quiet the noise and point you back to the work. Let me be honest about my first month trying to live this way. The calendar looked clean, but my habits were messy. I still found myself opening a browser tab as if my fingers could think for me. I got up for water far more often than I needed, and I felt the strange urge to check whether anyone needed me, which was really just an urge to avoid the stretch of a difficult idea. What helped was lowering the friction to start. I kept my desk ready the night before, placing a sticky note with the one-sentence target in the center. I chose the same playlist every time. I wrote down tiny wins at the end of the block, even if the output felt small, and I gave myself a weekly depth score, 1 point per focused hour up to 4 per day. Anything over 12 points in a week felt strong. Under 8 meant I needed to fix something concrete like sleep or meeting load. The second month felt different. Not because I became a superhero, but because the rituals turned deep work from an act of heroism into a habit of craft. And once the habit existed, the gains compounded. This brings us to meaning, because deep work is not only a productivity tactic, it is also a way to build a life you enjoy living. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi used the word flow to describe the state of total absorption when challenge and skill match. And if you have ever looked up from a page or a canvas or a problem and felt a low hum of pride rise in your chest, you know that feeling carries into the evening and even into the next day. It gives shape to time in a way that a cleared inbox never will. You do not need a perfect life to feel it. You need one protected block, then another, then a chain you do not break. It also helps to end the day with what Newport calls a shutdown ritual. You write what you finished, capture open loops, pick the one thing you will start with tomorrow, and then you say out loud, "Work is done for today." It sounds corny until you try it. And then you notice that your mind releases its grip, sleep comes easier, and you return with more horsepower the next morning. If you lead a team, you can turn this from a personal habit into a cultural advantage. Make deep work a shared value by protecting maker time for engineers and designers. Ask for written updates before meetings. Make meetings shorter and rarer and more about decisions than about information transfer. Praise outcomes instead of busyness, and track throughput in ways that reward focused creation. I once worked with a sales leader who moved pipeline reviews into a structured document and eliminated 2 standing meetings. And the team closed more deals because they spent more time selling and less time talking about selling. If you are an individual contributor without formal authority, you can still influence the system by modeling response windows, offering alternatives to long meetings, and showing how a single well-protected deep block can ship a feature or write a chapter or solve a bug that has lingered for weeks. Results make the case better than any slide deck. There are a few advanced practices worth adding once the basics feel natural. Train boredom tolerance deliberately by inserting 5-minute no-input gaps between tasks. No phone, no tabs, just a blank page and a breath, and let your nervous system learn that quiet is safe. Upgrade tools that reduce cognitive drag, a chair that does not nag your back, a keyboard that lets you type comfortably, a second monitor if your work benefits from one, or a standing desk if it keeps you alert. Use a separate browser profile for deep work with only the apps and tabs you need, and treat email like a project rather than a river. Batch it, template it, archive aggressively, and when something will take back and forth messages. Write one clear paragraph that seeks a decision. You will get your time back with interest. If you want a monthly reset, try a focus Sabbath. Choose one morning each month when you step away from screens and think on paper about one important question. And you might be surprised how many tangled problems begin to unknot when you give them air and space. At this point you might say, this all sounds good, but my life is uniquely busy. I have kids, a commute, a manager in another time zone, and a team that relies on me. I will not pretend those constraints do not matter, they do. And yet I have watched parents of toddlers use the journalistic approach to tuck 2 or 3 short, deep sessions into a day. I have watched nurses on rotating shifts write graduate papers by protecting a block before or after a shift. I have watched managers place their deepest block at the edge of the day, either first thing in the morning or last thing at night, and build a body of work they are proud of inside a schedule that most people would call impossible. The common thread is not perfect conditions. It is a commitment to one protected block, then another, and to forgiving yourself when you miss and getting right back to it the next day. Here is a compact plan you can follow starting tonight. Choose the philosophy that fits now. Rhythmic is often the simplest. Pick one block you can protect 4 days this week. If mornings are plausible, try from 6:30 to 8:30 in the morning. If not, try your lunch hour or the last 90 minutes of the day. Prepare your environment the night before by clearing your desk and writing your one-sentence target on an index card. In the morning, perform your start signal. Make tea, 3 slow breaths, or a short instrumental track. Put your phone in another room, full screen the work. When stray thoughts appear, write them on paper and return. When the block ends, save, summarize, schedule next in the afternoon. Batch shallow tasks into one window instead of letting them colonize the whole day. And before bed, run a short shutdown ritual so your brain releases the day. If you repeat this for 2 weeks, you will feel the difference. If you repeat it for 8 weeks, you will be different. One last perspective that helped me when I wanted to quit. Deep work is not about becoming a productivity machine. It is about honoring your talent and your time. It is a way of saying that the best ideas in you deserve the best attention you can give them. And you do not need a perfect calendar or a silent house to start. You need one block today that you protect like your future depends on it, because in many ways it does. And when that block ends, you will feel a small but real sense of progress. You will feel momentum. You will feel a little more like the person you set out to be when you chose this work in the first place. And that feeling makes the next block easier to begin. If this resonated and you want more practical, encouraging insights each week, please give this a like so it reaches more people. Subscribe so we can keep building together. And share it with a friend who is ready to protect their focus and do work they are proud of. Thank you for spending your time here. I truly appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video.